Hello and welcome to Your California Life. I'm your host, Aubrey Aquino. Happy first day of October. It's also my favorite day of the week, Friday Eve. We are excited to introduce you to our first guest on today's show. Her life's work is focused on helping Latinas overcome feelings of guilt, shame, and isolation for not being Latina enough. So she's doing her part to inspire and teach them to make their own rules and slay in every area of life by embracing their Latinidad instead of going at it alone. Here to tell us more about what she calls Project Eñye is co-founder, director, and producer Denise Soler Cox. Welcome to the show, Denise.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, this all started with your desire to create a film about identity. Can you tell me about it?
Yeah, so all my life growing up in the suburbs of New York City, I had a very classic identity struggle of not feeling Latina enough, in my case, Puerto Rican enough, or American enough. And I really believed that I was alone in feeling like that. And it took until I was 26 years old at a bar in North Miami Beach to realize that I actually wasn't alone. And it was so profound to me that I actually belonged to a group of millions of people who felt the same way that I did, that I decided to make a movie about it.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Now, who did you intend this movie to be for? I know it was born out of your own experience, but who really were you making it for?
So I was making it as a love letter to people in my situation. So people who had parents from Spanish-speaking countries who were born here or who were raised here and felt that identity struggle very acutely with another language being spoken at home, different food being cooked at home, different cultural norms being taught at home, and then having the exact opposite experience in their outside kind of real life, right? And so originally it was for them, and it was to validate them and let them know they were not alone and that they actually belonged to this huge group of people. And then over time, what I realized is there's a whole bunch of people that either love us, friends with us, married to us, work with us, otherwise known as allies, or friendes is what we call them, friends of Eñyes, who want to support us, who want to understand our life experience in that very nuanced way. And so the film has now grown in popularity to really include audiences of anyone who really cares about identity and where we belong, because it's really a global issue.
Well, I think, yeah, a lot of people can definitely identify with some of those feelings you mentioned. So Proyecto Eñye has helped thousands of first-generation Latinos carve out their own identity. Now, has this also impacted your view of your own identity?
Girl, it is like totally transformed me. And what I say, it brought me back to me. And what I mean is when we grow as into adults and get jobs and get married and we start identifying ourselves in the different roles, parent, wife, right? All the different things, we make decisions on how that's supposed to look or how I'm supposed to be in this role. And over the last few years, and certainly making the film, I realized there was a me underneath all of those roles and ideas of things I felt like I needed to be. There was a whole person there that I guess more closely resembled me as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I've kind of transformed back to her, if that makes any sense at all. It's kind of like a journey to myself. And I think that that's what the opportunity here is for people, is to be able to rid ourselves of the pieces and parts of ourselves that don't work, that we thought we had to be, in exchange for who we really are.
I completely agree. I hear what you're saying. Were there any surprises working on this project? And I also want to know, what's the next step in your project?
Yeah, so I would say, even though I was so drawn to creating this and making this, and I honestly would do it at any cost. I actually sold my wedding rings at one point to pay rent to actually make it. One thing I was surprised about was, conversation after conversation, it doesn't matter if someone is a C-level, successful professional, or if they're a middle school kid, and everywhere in between, everyone struggles with this at a human level. And once we actually spark the conversation, and the film is really 37 minutes of like an emotional roller coaster ride that really sparks this conversation, I guess the surprise is that people are really ready to talk about it. And even, I would say, the most closed off of people, the people that were like, yeah, they'll never be authentic, or they'll never share how they really feel about this, they will. And people are hungry to share what their take and what their slice of experience has been, connecting to their identity and kind of deciding who they're going to be in the world.
I think that's so important. I definitely can relate to what you're seeing now. Where can we see this film?
So anyone can watch it for free at projecteñye.com. And so it's project and then ENYE.com. And you can also listen to our podcast. It's called the Selfish Latina Podcast. And I was just featured by Apple Podcasts as a featured host.
Ooh.
And this month, the podcast is going to be featured as a featured podcast, which is a really big deal.
Yeah.
And we're also in production with our second film, which is inspired by the many conversations I had after our first film.
Yeah, I'm sure you've really got this conversation going because, like I said, I think a lot of people can definitely identify with the message, the focus, and really what you're trying to communicate. Any advice for someone else who wants to get their big passion project off the ground?
My advice is this: if you have the idea and it won't leave you alone the way that mine did, because I actually had the idea, but then waited for 17 years to actually take a dive and actually do it. If you have the idea, it is yours. And even if it doesn't look possible, even if you're confused about the how, I promise you, just take the first step and string together the next step with the next step. And I promise you, it is there for you. You can make it. It is absolutely it is possible for you. And if you ever get curious and you want to talk to me personally about it, find me on my Instagram at Project Eñye, and we can talk more about it there.
I love it. Denise also offering to share her passion and her insights. I can feel your passion. I'm really excited to check out this project, and I'm so glad you shared it with our audience today. For more information, you can visit